Thursday, we'll have exam 3. Now, I think I had mentioned end of last week that I was meeting with the coordinator on Friday. So I did meet with him, and he's decided, at least at this point, to use WebAssign for the final exam. And so I will be writing your guys' third exam through WebAssign as well, I believe, just to make sure you're getting used to, taking in that format. Honestly, I'm not too worried about my classes, you guys in the 830 class, because you've been doing these assessments all semester long. And essentially, the final exam is just going to be like another assessment. And so as the details get hammered out on that, I'll give you more information as I know, but at least as of now, that is the plan for that. And then, so that week of your exam 3 is the last week, technically, with this quarantine. I don't know if it's changed up at all, but that's technically the last week that you are allowed to be tested. So during study week, university policy is no testing. So I know that during that final week, that last week, a lot of tests are given in your class. Again, with the quarantine, maybe not so much as in past semesters. Morning, Karen. But what I will do, and I have to figure out now if WebAssign will allow me to schedule like one day in time for somebody versus somebody else. Well, it should have the correct answers marked. I don't know if it has your answers still or not. I would have to go back and check that. But where was I? Oh yeah. So if you need to reschedule the date, so let's say that on the 30th, when you guys are having exam 3, if you have 3 other exams, this thing is, can I do that on WebAssign? And I'm not sure if I can assign an assignment to somebody, a specific student on one day in time versus. So I'll check into that today. And if so, then, you guys, otherwise it'll probably be similar. It'll probably be like your exam and then take this one. So, yeah, we'll try to figure that out as we get closer. Okay, and then lastly, in my 830 class, so someone had asked about office hours, doing a Zoom office hours. So I sent you guys an email. You should have got it. I'll be doing office hours today. No. So on your exam 3, you'll just be given one opportunity. There won't be a time limit. So whenever you start, you have until you finish it. Well, I mean, there's the deadline, midnight or whatever, but not like the last exam where it's 2 hours and then it cuts you off. So you won't have that. There won't be the time limit on it, but you will have only one attempt. So if you enter it in wrong, if you format it wrong and put the answer in wrong, it's wrong. So you're not going back and checking everybody's answer electronically to see, oh, well, they had the answer right, but you didn't format it right. So you need to make sure that when you format your answers, you format it exactly as WebAssign is specifying. I will go back and look, Lisa, but that's odd because everyone else has been able to view it. So I'll have to go back and look what's going on there. Yeah. So anyway, Zoom office hours today from noon to 12:30. So if there's anything from today's lessons that needed more clarifications or something else you guys have a question on, you have that ID, you have that password. We can do that Zoom office hours today at noon. So, all right. Any questions on that before we get into today's stuff? Okay. Geez, I almost erased this. Don't do that. So today is 9.1 and 9.2. This is on vectors. And so a vector can take 2 formats. You have this format here where you have these little arrows and then our horizontal component and our vertical component, A and B. A can be positive or negative, B can be positive or negative. Just tells us, am I moving left, Am I moving right? Am I moving up? Am I moving down? The magnitude of this vector is the same formula we've been using for everything all semester. Pythagorean theorem, the radius, modulus, all of that stuff. So square root of a squared plus b squared. The other way we can identify a vector or notate it is with our unit vectors. This notation of I and j. I represents one unit, either left or right, depending if it's positive or negative, and j represents one unit up or down, depending if it's positive or negative. Then the other issue with this section is the word problems. Okay, you're welcome. So part of it with the word problems is what they're asking when they use certain verbiage. So I'm going to go through that here. If the problem says, like, write the velocity of the ocean as a vector, then it means just the vector by itself. How many units left and right? How many units up or down? If it says, write the velocity of the salmon or the jet or whatever relative to whatever, air, water, etc. When you see this word relative, so velocity of the jet relative to the air, it means just the velocity of the jet by itself. So don't worry about, is there any wind or not, or is there any ocean current or not? It doesn't matter. What is the velocity of the salmon by itself, or velocity of the jet by itself as a vector? Then, if it says, what's the true velocity? That is when we add these two together. So if the salmon is swimming, but the ocean is also pushing it, that's the true velocity. We add 1 and 2. And then lastly, number 4 is if it says the true speed. This is the only thing out of all of these different ones that uses the word speed. That means the magnitude of the vector that we created in step number 3. So that's the verbiage you're looking out for. Relative means the jet by itself. True velocity, add the two together. True speed, take the magnitude. So any questions on that before we move to 9.2? All right, so 9.2, so we have this vector. U is A1, B1, and V is A2, B2. Let me check your guys' quiz real quick here. So I'm going to erase this stuff from 9.1 because I want to talk about one of the quiz problems. So I had several people email me about the quiz. And let me find it here. Do I not have it now? Well, I don't have it. But one of the quiz questions was asking you for the dot product. And so the dot product here is what? A1 times A2 plus B1 times B2. I'm multiplying these two together, and I'm adding it when I multiply the second two values together. And so what a lot of you guys were, so on the quiz, it said A is A1, A2, and B is B1, B2. So the dot product, so A dot B is not A1, A2 plus B1, B2. Why not? Because A1, A2 is multiplying the values in the same vector. So it'd be like multiplying A1 times B1. So the dot product of AB is A1 times B1 plus A2 times B2. It's not A1, A2, B1, B2. So it's A1, B1, A2, B2. So that's why a lot of you guys were getting that one wrong, because you weren't multiplying the first two values, multiply the second two values, add them together. Does that make sense? I don't remember if there's anybody from this class, but That's why you guys were getting that one wrong, because you weren't matching up the correct values. And the other thing about dot product is it's a scalar, it's not a vector. So if you're asked to find a dot product and then you give me an answer like 2i plus 3j, can't be. It's not a vector, it's a scalar, it's just some number. And then lastly, and I have it in red here because I didn't put this in the videos, I just forgot, plain and simple. When I film these videos, for whatever reason, I don't know why I didn't put it in the video, but I didn't. But it's important, and it'll help with some of these problems here you guys have. But if we need to find an angle between the vectors, we use this formula, cosine of theta. I have cosine underlined like 10 times here, because once I figure out what this value is, that's not the angle. The angle is whatever cosine of theta gives me that value. What do you need to base? You probably do. You probably need to do A subscript or B subscript 1, A subscript 2, etc., etc. If you just put A and B, I think it'll mark them wrong. All right, so angle between is the dot product over the product of the magnitudes. So any questions on that? Anything from the 9.2, and then make sure you have this formula down, the angle between your vectors. So the last thing I'll talk about here, and I know we're running a little long compared to normal start of class here, but it has to do with some formulas that were in this section. Actually, it's from 9.1. Yeah, 9.1. It has to do with finding horizontal and vertical components. And in the book, they give you the formulas. And if you do the watch-its, they give you the formulas. But here's the problem. The formulas do not work all the time. So if you are going to rely on those formulas, I will tell you right now, you're going to get problems on exam 3, potentially the final, depending what problems he puts there. You're going to get it wrong because the formulas don't work for the problems that I will give you. What you need to do is just go back to your Sohcahtoa, draw the vector, and figure out how many units left or right am I going, how many units up or down, and use that for your values of A and B. If you use those formulas, it's going to give you the wrong answer. So that's about all I can tell you. If you have those formulas written down somewhere now, and you're like, oh, cool, I'll just use these formulas whenever I have to figure out these values, you run a real big risk of getting the problems wrong. So that's why it wasn't in any of the videos. That's why I didn't have it up on the board, because I don't even want you knowing it, because it doesn't work all the time. All right, so any other questions before we get into some of the problems you guys had? Oh, so Jay, you were saying you also needed to. Yes, I think you have to. You definitely use the base. All right. So the first question you guys had was number 6. You have a salmon is swimming north, 45 degrees east at 2 miles per hour. And the ocean is flowing due east at 3 miles per hour. And it wants to know what is the true velocity. So from the wording I gave you, true velocity is what? I need to figure out the ocean by itself. I need to figure out the salmon by itself, and then I add those two together. So let's do the ocean first. So I'm going to draw myself a graph here so I can see what's happening here. So the ocean is going due east at 3 miles per hour. So in terms, You also need, yeah. In terms of my I and J, this is doing what? Well, it's moving to the right. My I is my left or right values. And because it's moving to the right, that's positive. This is going to be 3I, and it doesn't move up or down at all. So if you want to put 0J, just for later when we're adding, we know that, okay, this is my I piece, this is my J piece, that's fine. Now let's do the salmon. So again, I'm drawing a graph, but a separate graph. Don't try to do these on the same graph, or that's going to potentially cause you some confusion. So this one, the salmon, is going which way? It's north, 45 degrees east. So remember, when we're doing these bearing and headings, the angle always has to touch the y-axis. So this is 45 in here. And so what we need to figure, and at 2 miles per hour. So what I need to figure out is from the origin, how many units do I have to go left or right? And how many units up or down do I have to go to get to the end point? So this is one where we're going to need to use our Sohcahtoa. So that first I need the angle in here. Well, the angle in here is what? Well, it also happens to be 45. So to figure out A, I have what? Adjacent and hypotenuse. That's cosine. So cosine of 45 is adjacent, which is A, over hypotenuse, which is 2. So therefore, if I multiply both sides by 2, my value for A, cosine of 45, is root 2 over 2. So 2 times root 2 over 2, the 2's cancel out. So my value for A is just square root of 2. So any questions on that before I move to B? All right. So part B, or side B, is now opposite in hypotenuse. So that's going to be sine. So sine of 45 is opposite over hypotenuse. Again, multiply both sides by 2. So 2 times square root of 2 over 2 again. B is the same value, square root of 2. So the vector for the salmon relative to the ocean, i.e. the salmon all by itself, is what? Root 2I plus root 2J. Has to move root 2 units to the right, root 2 units up to get to this end point. That was the salmon. So lastly, the answer that it wants, the true velocity, I need to add these two. So add the I pieces and add the J pieces. So for the I pieces, I get 3 plus square root of 2, I plus square root of 2, J. So that should be your answer for number 6. Any questions on that one? All right. Number 7. So 7's a little bit easier because it's just all due north, due east, due south, due west. So we didn't have to draw the triangle and use our Sohcahtoa. So we have a jet is going due east at 475 miles per hour, and wind is blowing due north at 40 miles per hour. Okay, question? All right, I'll hold on. Are you using the I and J buttons, or you're using the I and J off the keyboard? You sure you're using those I and J buttons from the pull-down menu? All right, so for this guy, it wants basically all the pieces. The first thing it wants is the velocity of the wind as a vector. So if I draw that chart or that graph, it's due north at 40. So that means what? 0 units left and right, 40 units up, so that's positive. Could be, yep. So we get 0i plus 40j for part A. Part B says write the velocity of the jet relative to the wind. That means the jet all by itself. So if I draw that graph, I have what? Due east at 475 miles per hour. So that's what? Moving to the right, that's my I's and J's, and because it's positive, it's going to be 475I plus 0J. Part C says what's the true velocity of the jet? So true velocity is I add these first two pieces. So if I add the I pieces, I get 475I. If I add the J pieces, I get 40J. Part D says what's the true speed rounded to the nearest integer? So true speed is the magnitude of the vector that I just created. So it's the square root of 475 squared plus 40 squared. So you enter that on your calculator, round it to the nearest number. You should get 477. So are we okay to that point? Any questions on any of those calculations? How we figure out our I's and J's, how we combine them together, etc. Any questions before I move on to part E? All right, so I'm going to erase this upper part here. So part E says what's the direction? North, how many degrees? East. So think about what's happening with this jet. It's heading due east, but every time it moves along, so every hour it goes 475 miles to the east, but then the wind blows it up 40. So it goes 475, moves north 40. Goes 475, up 40. 475, up 40. So that's what's happening with this jet. So in fact, the jet's not heading due east, but the jet is heading that direction there. So to figure out what this heading is, I need to know what's that theta. So north, how many degrees to the east? Well, I can't figure that out by itself, but what can I figure out? I can figure out the angle inside here. Let's call it theta star. And how do I figure out theta star? Well, I have this triangle with a theta, an opposite, and an adjacent. So it's going to be what? It's going to be tangent of theta star is equal to 40 over 475. Once you do this math, you're going to get theta star is equal to some value, but that's the angle inside of here. So how do I figure out this blue theta that ends up in this box? Well, I need to do 90 minus my theta star. So go ahead and try to do that. Make sure you're in degree mode. Calculate your theta star, and then subtract that from 90 to get what your angle of theta is. And again, once you're done, just tell me done so I know you guys are waiting on me at that point. So Will, yes, we need theta, but the only way we can figure that out is by finding theta star, because I don't have anything here for that angle. Or you'd have to figure out the angle up here, opposite angles like that, but yeah, so you're right. We do need theta, but how we get that is finding out what's this little angle so that we can actually, okay. All right, looks like most of you guys are wrapping this up. No, because when we get this value here, it's giving us just the little angle, like four degrees or something like that. But our direction is not four degrees east, would be just barely coming over this way. We want this whole big blue angle. Number 6. So Teresa, send me your answer through the Ask the Instructor. And I'll try to see how you're inputting it to see what's going on there. So it shouldn't be taking 4.8 degrees. Let me see the problem here again. I'm just calling it theta star, so it has a different name, Stephen. It should not be taking 4.8 degrees because it's not north 4.8 degrees east. So I honestly don't know why it's taking 4.8 degrees. 4.8 degrees is not the right answer for this problem. 4.8 degrees is this guy. So our theta star, the little angle inside the triangle, is 4.8. But this direction right here is not north 4.8 degrees east. North 4.8 degrees east would be right here. And that is not the direction the plane is heading. So I don't know why WebAssign is taking it. Okay. Sorry, Jay. Yes. So 4.8 is our theta star. The answer is 90 minus 4.8, which is the 85.2. Yeah. So, yeah, exactly. Okay. Yes, it does not take 4.8 because 4.8 is not the answer. 4.8 is the theta star, which is the little angle inside the triangle here. But for the heading, I need the big angle outside. Yeah, so Will, you're saying that WebAssign took 4.8 degrees for here? Yeah, it should only take 85.2. So, yeah, that's so weird that, okay. So, all right. So that's this problem here. The other problems you guys asked about, 8 and 13, are basically like these last two that we just did. Okay. Yeah, exactly, Stephen. That maybe I should start saying that because I was getting as confused as everybody else. So, yeah, it has to be 85.2. Okay. And again, as I said, 7 and 13. No, did we just do 7? Yeah, we just did 7. 8. 8 and 13 are basically like the last two that we just did. But in the interest of time, I just want to make sure that we move on to some of these other problems. And if we have time, then we can go back. Or there's the Zoom office hours. So if you still have questions, you want to check in during the Zoom office hours, we can do that too. So, all right. So 9.2. The first one is number 3. And you have U is equal to I plus root 6J. And V is negative root 6I plus J. So it's asking for two things. It's asking for the dot product, and it's asking for the angle between them. And mostly everybody that was asking me about this one, you got the dot product right. It was the angle between. Again, I take responsibility for that. I didn't give you guys that formula. Now that we have the formula, you might be able to get it. So first, we need the dot product. Dot product, we take the numbers in front of the I, multiply them together. Take the numbers in front of the J, multiply them together, and add it. So I have what? 1 times negative root 6 plus positive root 6 times positive 1. So this is negative root 6 plus root 6, which is 0. So the dot product for this one is 0. So now the angle between is what? Cosine of theta is the dot product 0 over the product of the magnitudes of the vectors. Typically, I would have to calculate these two values. In this case, I do not. And why is that? Well, it doesn't matter what number this is. 0 divided by some number is just 0. So really, this thing is saying cosine of theta is 0. So where, and with our angle between, we always want our answer to be between 0 and 180 degrees. So I wouldn't say that the angle between two vectors is 300 degrees. It's just 60 degrees. Take the smaller of the value between 0 and 180. So where between 0 and 180 is cosine of theta equal to 0? That's when theta is 90 degrees. So if you were to sketch these two vectors, they form a right angle at the origin. Does that make sense for this one? All right, so I guess no questions. Let me have you guys try number 5 now that you have the formula and can do that. Number 5, you're going to need your calculator. And again, make sure you're in degree mode here. Number 5, we have U is 4I plus J. And V is 5I minus 8J. So go ahead, again, they want the same thing. What's our dot product? And then what's the angle between? So try that for this problem. Calculate the dot product and calculate the angle between. Again, if you have a question, go ahead and type it on the screen there. I'll try to get it for you. Sure. So for the angle between, cosine of theta is the dot product over the product of the magnitudes. And again, we want our theta to be between 0 and 180 degrees. Yep, no problem. Lisa, were you able to see your test now? Did you try to go back and see it? Let me check on why you guys aren't. Huh, looks like yours didn't save. Hold on, let me change the setting real quick, Lisa. Okay, Lisa, you should be able to see it now. Do you want to check? Maybe I didn't change your guys, so let me. Oh, well, no, because Jay could see his. Eric, are you No, you're not in the 8:30 class. Oh, well, how did you see your answer, Jay? Okay, let me go back and see if I can adjust your guys. Maybe for some reason I never changed your guys' settings. I thought I did, but let me check real quick. Oh, yeah, your guys is the same. So well, if I did change it, maybe I didn't save it. So let me change it real quickly here. All right, so I just changed the settings. So maybe if you guys want to check again, I don't know if you have to log out and log in for it to take effect, but just change the settings so you should be able to see your exam 2 now. Again, maybe you have to log off Canvas and then log back on. I'm not 100% sure if because I changed it, if now you have to do that or not, but you should be able to see it now. And if not, let me just double check again, make sure that I have the other settings right too. All right, so it's changed. So hopefully you guys can see it. If not, I'll have to mess around with it again, but change the settings I needed to. Change. Yeah, maybe it might because I know like if I post a discussion or something, it has a little lag time. So all right, well we'll see. I guess maybe later today we'll see if it works, and if not, let me know on Thursday and I'll keep monkeying around with this thing. All right, so this guy here, dot product. We have 4 times 5 plus 1 times -8. So this is 20 minus 8, so 12. So your dot product for this one should be 12. So now the angle between, you have cosine of theta is 12 over, and now I need the magnitude of both of these. So magnitude of u is square root of 4 squared plus 1 squared. That's square root of 17. And magnitude of v is square root of 5 squared plus -8 squared. So that's 64 plus 25, 87, 25, 89. So square root of 89. So to figure out theta, you're going to have to use the cosine inverse function on your calculator, 12 over this product, and I believe it's 72 degrees. Anybody confirm that? I think that's what the answer was from earlier, 8:30 class. So this one you would have to use your calculator. It's not a nice, easy value. Okay, thanks, Jonathan. It's not a nice, clean value like we had in the first problem. And then the other problem. Number 12. So Sydney, do you still need number 12 and whatever the other one was that you posted on there? So number 12, we have V is negative root 2 over 8. Negative root 2 over 8. Oh, okay. You can figure it out. Okay. Well, I won't go too much into that. And I just realized I didn't give you guys an attendance problem today, so don't worry about putting an attendance problem in your ticket out the door notebook. All right. So any other questions then? That was kind of, again, we had the salmon and the other ones, 8 and 13. Those are similar to 6 and 7. Hopefully you guys can kind of walk through on that. But if not, I'll give you your ticket out the door. The earlier class, it took them quite a while to do them. So I want to make sure you guys have enough time as well. You have just under half an hour here. And actually, the first ticket out the door problem is good practice for 8 and 13 from 9.1. So if you're stuck on this ticket out the door, you'll be able to ask questions on that, and that'll hopefully help you out on those. So first ticket out the door problem, number 1. You have a salmon swims north 30 degrees east at 6 miles per hour. We have an ocean flows due west at 4 miles per hour. So we have these 4 pieces we want. Find the velocity of the ocean as a vector. Find velocity of the salmon relative to the ocean. C, find the true velocity of the salmon. And part D, find the true speed of the salmon. And this one, figure at the 2 decimal places. So use your calculator on this one. And question number 2. You have U is equal to I plus root 3J. V is equal to negative root 3I minus J. So just like the last couple problems, what's U dot V? And what's the angle between them? So a couple problems, a bunch of parts. As I said, these do take a while. So go ahead and give these a try. And if you get stuck, you have a question, as always, feel free to ask and I'll try to help you out. If you do get an answer and you want to check it, just again, put it in the comment feed. Is this the answer to A? Is this the answer to B, etc.? And I can tell you right or wrong as you move along. So. No problem. We're just doing the ticket out the door now. The video will be uploaded to YouTube afterwards. So if you do need to go back You can kind of see what we talked about, um, things like that. So glad you were able to make it though. Aha, I think I see what's going on. So let me change one more setting and then I think you should be able to see it. Aha, okay, I see what's going on. Okay, so let me change yours, Lisa. Whoops. Yep, okay, perfect. I had something click where you're only allowed to see the answers once, so I had to change that. Let me change yours real quick, Lisa. Okay, so should be good now. I just had to change one thing. Yep, no problem. Sorry about the trouble there. Again, I know these answers are a little bit difficult to kind of enter in with the chat feature. Oh, Jay, yeah. Maybe I'll email you later. I tried to find that Discord feature. I don't know if you know where it's on here or where I can find it. I tried to find it this morning and I didn't really have a lot of time to play around with it. So I'll check it out later today. But yeah, if I can get that where you guys can at least voice communicate back and forth, that would probably help out a little bit too. So, oh, okay. And then it can be integrated with YouTube, you're saying? Well, I'll let you do your stuff. I'll check it out. And then if I have questions, maybe I'll hit you up. Yeah, yeah, definitely. That's fine. So I'll give you guys a few more minutes and then I'll put the answers on the board. That way, if there's any, and sort of talk it through how you get the answers. Again, you guys, so these are exam types of questions. So you definitely need to be able to do both of these types of problems. All right, so let me go ahead and give you guys the answers at least. And maybe like if you guys don't know how to do these, we can use these on Thursday before class or before we get into 11.1. Because now we kind of start getting into some stuff. Chapter 11 is conics like ellipse, hyperbolas, parabolas. And then chapter 12 is just kind of a bunch of formulas at the end. So this is really the bulk of the material. From here on out, it's not really as integral to the class. But so for A, you should have had minus 4i. And if you want to put in the 0j, that's fine. For B, you should have 3i plus 3 root 3j. The true velocity, you add these two together, so you get minus I plus 3 root 3j. And then D, the true speed, rounded to 2 decimal places, should be 5.29. And then for number 2, the dot product should have had negative 2 root 3. The angle between should have been 150 degrees. So again, hopefully you guys got those or we're working towards those. If not, if we need to go over that on Thursday at the start of class, that's fine as well. But otherwise, that would be your answers for these guys. So you still have a few more minutes. I will hang around here yet. If you guys are going to log off, then certainly have a good afternoon, good evening. We'll see you on Thursday morning. And again, if you do have other questions and you want to do virtual office hours, I'll have the Zoom at 12 o'clock today. So what I may do, if it works out well, then I'll just plan to have the Zoom office hours at regular office hours. If people, let me know that, yeah, I'll log in at that point. So that way, whatever you guys, if you have the time, we can go into Zoom prior to office hours. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, you want to meet like I think, well, I'll try to turn it on at like 10 to 12. And if you want to, well, you know what? Let me, well, yeah, okay, let's do that. It's like 10 minutes enough if we do like 11:50 or something, or 11:45 maybe. We do 11:45. That'll give us 15 minutes. No, there was no attendance problem for 8:30 either. Otherwise, Jay, if it's something I can kind of sort of figure my way out through, I'll just check it out. And then if I have questions, then maybe Thursday or something, or maybe another time we could, if I have questions, I could always do a Zoom with you there. Then that way we don't have to bother other people too. So, but I'll check it out this afternoon, see if I can figure it out and how to incorporate it. All right, so I am going to shut down the feed here. Again, if you guys are coming to the virtual office hours, we'll see you then. Otherwise, I'll see you guys on Thursday morning. And have a good afternoon, and we'll talk to you guys later.